Hey friends, it's Nikayla from the podcast Side Hustle Pro. I'm always looking for ways to entertain my kids without screens, and the Yoto Mini has been a total lifesaver. My kids started using it right away and haven't stopped since. Hours of stories, music, podcasts, and more at no screens or ads. Now through December 1st, Yoto is having its biggest sale of the year. Check out yotoplay.com.
Why choose a Sleep Number smart bed?
Can I make my site softer?
Can I make my site firmer?
Can we sleep cooler?
Sleep Number does that. Cools up to 8 times faster and lets you choose your ideal comfort on either side. Your Sleep Number setting. Enjoy personalized comfort for better sleep night after night. It's our Black Friday sale. Recharge this season with a bundle of cozy, soothing comfort. Now only $17.99 for our C2 mattress and base, plus free premium delivery. Prices higher in Alaska and Hawaii. Check it out at a Sleep Number store or sleepnumber.com today.
Hello and welcome to mini episode number 485 of Real Life Ghost Stories, and I have one spooky story for you today, and this story comes from the 23rd of September 2025, and our story today comes from Karlee. I've just been for an evening walk with my dog Lucy. I was hoping for a nice, relaxing, chilled walk, but it ended up being an absolutely tensely terrifying walk instead. I may have been on edge from the beginning after walking through about 13 spiderwebs, being bitten by 57 mozzies, and Lucy growling and attacking something that wasn't there. It ended up being a possum, before I'd even made it 5 minutes down the road. Then adding your creepy as fuck intro music on top of that. I listened to the episode about the fellas who disappeared from the lighthouse on that island 100 years ago. That was a creepy one to listen to at night time alone on the streets with nothing but a wussy Labrador for protection. We live in the suburbs, and we've just come into spring, so no one's out and about much because it's still dark early. Something happened on my walk. Walking up the hill, and Lucy stops outside the usual house because she gets a sniff on. I'm standing there still as a statue, daydreaming, when I look up and there is a big arse, dead still shadow of a solid-built, wide-shouldered 10-foot man on the bushes or the hedge about 10 metres in front of me, seeming like he's just staring at me. Tingles went up my spine, and I turned around very much expecting Michael Myers to be at the bottom of the hill, threatening me with the formidable walk chase. He wasn't there, thank fuck. As I whipped my head back to tell Lucy that we needed to get the fuck out of there, so did the shadow. And that's when I realised that the foreboding shadow was in fact my own. Apparently built like a brick shithouse and a man. But I actually do have a real ghost tidbit for you. I'm in Sydney, Australia. We've a place in Manly called the Quarantine Station. It was used to isolate and quarantine migrants coming into Sydney, as it was at the entrance of the harbour and secluded. It was to clear people, or not, of infectious diseases before they could officially enter Australia. A terrible, scary and brutal place. They did forced sterilisation. They put acid in the water for showering. And I remember something about a steam room, and not the relaxing kind. Even stories of people being shot if they tried to escape. Hundreds of people died there, and there are a couple of cemeteries there. It's meant to be one of the most haunted sites in Australia. They have part of the grounds now for functions and corporate events. They also use part of it as a hotel. They do ghost tours and have done since forever. I've done 3, once when I was 15, 26-ish and 32. They now do one with paranormal equipment and people and whatnot, but I can't afford that. Each time I've been to at least one new building or room. Some parts close if the weather's been crap, as it's pretty hard to access. Some parts close for refurbs, etc. The first time I went, I was with my best friend. We were with the group in the old dining hall, and the tour guide was telling us some spooky stories about some of the spirits and ghosts that had been seen. We went downstairs and were lagging behind and hanging at the back of the group. As we came down the wooden stairs to a smallish room, maybe the old kitchen or the cellar, I can't remember, it was 20 years ago, My friend and I both saw this bright light flash across the windows next to us, and then back again, stopping at us dead and blinding us. My friend screamed uncontrollably and stumbled, knocking into me. I started screaming, and set off half the group screaming. All it was some drunk fuckers from the hotel running around with torches trying to scare us, and they got us good. Nothing else happened on that tour. The next time, it was around 8 years later. We went to 2 new areas which were inaccessible the last time due to huge rains. There was not too much to report. There was a morgue where they did autopsies. It was up the hill. It was just a very tiny cement room with an autopsy table or bed bang in the middle that was also cement. We had to squish in to fit. I just recall this room being extremely heavy feeling, like a pressure weighing you down. It made your whole body and head ache in such an overwhelming way. Everyone was just waiting for the tour guide's story to be over so we could leave. It had a horrible thick smell of decay, and it was such a relief when we all stumbled out of there. The tour guide said that most people felt like this and did warn us before we went in there of a yuck feeling and that we could leave if it got to be too much. I've heard something to do with decay and sulphur is probably the reason. Another building was down at the bottom closer to the water. Another square cement block but around 5 times bigger than the morgue, and we all fit in there with plenty of room. Don't hold me to it, but I think they used this building to spray people off as they came off the boats before showering. This is possibly where they used the acid or something. I don't remember clearly, but I know that this block had not a very nice story. It was very cold in this building. It felt uneasy, like someone was watching you. I remember a guy in the group saying something touched his arm a couple of times and whispered something into his ear, or he heard a whisper in the air around his head. Afterwards, when the tour guide asked if anyone had any encounters, that's when this guy told him of the touches and the whispers. He explained that there was a ghost of a man that likes to pinch you, and people have heard whispers, as well as lights or shadows seen in the corner of the room. My final visit about 5 years ago was the one. We visited the hospital precinct and went into a couple of new wards. Apparently a couple of nurses' spirits hang around there, and the caretaker who wears a bowler hat. They are quite active and seen often. The nurses moved beds, and a certain bed in particular brings on encounters. No one encountered anything, but it wasn't nice walking along the walkways outside attaching the buildings to each other. Hairs on the back of your neck were up and felt like something was following you and watching you from a distance. Now this is it. The bathroom shower stalls. I'll tell you, the tour guide only said a couple of the stalls are known to be haunted. People have seen figures in the stalls, heard a little girl saying, "Mummy, I don't want to go in the shower." The stall doors being slammed, being shoved and pushed. He said to look into the shower stalls if you're game, and then he sends us inside to look around. So everyone made a beeline for the right aisle where the main stall was. It was too crowded, so I went up the middle one with a couple of people and stupidly decided to leave that one and go completely by myself, far away from the rest of the group, and up the left aisle. It had quite an oppressive, uneasy feeling straight away. The aisles were pretty long, dark and creepy too. I thought I'd go with it and see if I got any feelings from a particular stall. I came to a stall and stopped. I turned and procrastinated so much before looking in, pushed the door, jumped back, and bam, right in the kisser. Nothing. I carried on up the aisle, got to the end and stopped. I was in the back left corner next to the last stall and facing the back, and looked right to see if anyone else was at the end of the other aisles, but no one was. I turned around with my back to the back wall, facing the front entrance direction. The stall was on my left and the wall was on my right. I stayed for a sec listening, if anyone was still in the block at all. I think there were a couple of chicks on the far right still. Suddenly I just came over absolutely and wholeheartedly terrified, as in never been so scared in my life. I froze as all the hairs on my body stood up. I felt like there was someone big and really angry behind me that did not want me there and wanted me gone immediately. I was stuck to the spot and couldn't move, but felt like I was just getting screamed at to get out. They gave off such angry, enraged energy. The anger, the urgency for me to leave was immense. I felt terror. I didn't turn around at this stage because I was just kind of stuck to the spot. I couldn't move. Then suddenly I could. It could have been about 3 seconds, but it felt like forever. But I still didn't turn around. I don't know if it was because I couldn't turn or if I was too scared of what I might see. I just started walking Olympic style fast to get the fuck out of there, but it was like I was being pulled by a dog walk chasing a cat, and my legs were being made to go a lot faster than I actually could on my own. It felt like this person was right on my heels chasing me out, like they could have grabbed me or pushed me at any moment, but they were just trying to intimidate me in the most horrible and horrifying way ever. It just wanted me out, like it was their duty or complete hatred of me being there. I remember being a little uncoordinated as I came out because I managed to stumble down the 2 stairs that led to freedom. I just wanted to explain. When I say I felt like I was getting screamed at to get out, it was like it was in my mind. It wasn't physical sound. Like this person had overwhelmed my mind so that all I could hear was furious yelling to get out of there. And all I could picture was rage. But I couldn't actually see anything in my mind either. I'm trying to find the words to describe it. The terror I felt was fucking enormous, and I felt terrorized. It was purely from the rage that this person radiated. It wasn't fear from something traditionally scary like a jump scare, something physical, or from being threatened to be hurt. Their anger overwhelmed me. As I came out, I was still scared, but not terrified, because I felt the hate and rage and stress dissipate straight away. I wasn't last out either. There were 2 girls that came out right after me and they were giggling. The tour guide gathered us together to ask if we had anything happen in there. No one else said they encountered anything but coldness, and somebody else said maybe a slight push, but they weren't sure. I didn't say anything. I was still pretty shaken up from it, and I wasn't sure what the fuck just happened, and I didn't want anyone to carry on and pick apart what had just happened to me. The tour guide then explained another ghost that hangs out in the showers with the other ghosts. There used to be a guard back in the day, and he was apparently angry and mean. He intimidated people and told people off or to get out if they weren't meant to be there, chased them even. People have told stories of being pushed from behind and heard voices asking why they are here. That was the last stop on the tour, and rightfully so, because I was done. I went to a mate's house on the weekend. We got jolly on margies and martinis while supervising her daughter and the neighbours' kids having a sleepover. Whilst the girls were twerking all over the furniture, we ended up talking about ghost tours. She's a newish friend. I met her surfing about 3 years ago. As it turns out, she's into the supernatural stuff, ghost tours, etc. too. So she told me about a couple of places and tours that she'd been on, and I told her about the quarantine station. She did have an experience at the quarantine station. It was up at the hospital precinct along the walkways connecting each building. She told me she felt like someone was following her and her friend, making their way to and from each building. They'd spend time in each building, so it's like it waited for them. She said each time they were halfway across a walkway, the hair on the back of their neck stood up and they shivered. They stopped to check that no one was behind them, and each time the bushes closest to them rustled, but everything else was dead silent, not even a cicada. When I mentioned the toilet block where my story was, she said, "Oh, the angry ghost." And I said, "Yeah, what the actual fuck?" She explained that the tour guide both times warned them about him before they went into the block, but no one experienced him. I told her our tour guide didn't mention him until after we came out, so I had no idea what I was walking into. The next thing she said freaked me out and made my eyes water. As I began telling my story, before I'd gotten to the part where I left the group and went off on my own, she interjected, "Were you in the left aisle?" I didn't answer her yet, and I just said, "Wait till I get to it, dude." As she had said that, though, I secretly got creeped out. Goosebumps on my eyes started to water. After I told her the story and how she scared the fuck out of me with the left side comment, I didn't want to say anything mid-story. She said that the tour guides she had had also told them about the left aisle, that it's extremely haunted and extremely angry, that this angry ghost guard hangs out in the left aisle only. We clarified, and yes, we were talking about the same left, and that he specifically hangs out at the end of the aisle in the back corner. Our tour guide never mentioned anything about the left side, let alone that it was extremely haunted and angry. I even researched it after it happened and tried to find other people's experiences. I didn't find anything. Until my mate told me this, I had never heard about it. No one else seemed to go there but me, because we all went the right and middle aisle first before I left, and then me being the third last out straight from there. I can't believe I went around there on my own. It makes me feel sick. It was a horrible experience. There are more ghosts there, but I can't remember all the stories. Karlee, this was such a fun email in so many ways. First of all, I've been in that situation where I've scared the shit out of myself. But I love the fact that you were quite literally scared of your own shadow. That brought me a lot of joy. The Q station is somewhere that has come up a number of times on the podcast. Listeners have sent in stories about it. And actually one of those stories is on mini episode number 238, which came out on April the 7th, 2023. And it just sounds like an awful place. I mean, I've heard so many stories about the people that they shipped over to Australia. Like, for a lot of time, criminals were shipped over to Australia. Now, a criminal could mean anything from stealing from a church to rape and murder. You know what I mean? Like, so criminality was a broad spectrum, but often criminals were sent from Ireland and England to Australia. But also so were orphans, children who didn't have anybody, children who were in Catholic institutions in England and in Ireland were shipped over to Australia. I remember reading this book about people being shipped over to Australia, and it was devastating, and I would never read it again. And it makes sense that there would be a lot of residual energy in the Q station, like people arriving there terrified, being shipped across with sometimes violent and dangerous people. Like, not all criminals are violent and dangerous, right? That still stands to this day. But, so many people would have died there. That journey from Ireland and from anywhere around the world to Australia by boat was a treacherous journey, an awful journey. And it just makes sense that there would be so much residual energy. And clearly you felt that at various points. You felt that when you were in the autopsy room, where it just felt overbearing and horrible. But also I really liked what you pointed out about paranormal investigations, ghost hunting tours, that kind of thing. Most of the time, nothing happens. You know what I mean? Like, when you're on ghost tours, you obviously have a tour guide and you get information, and that's really cool and fun. But if you're doing some sort of paranormal investigation, 90% of the time, 99% of the time, nothing is happening. You're just there. It's cold. You're tired. That's about it. But it sounds like in that shower room that you really connected with whatever the heck is in there, that guard potentially that is still there, still trying to usher people out, still being aggressive as shit. And there's something so terrifying about that unquantifiable feeling where you know that something is there, that something doesn't want you to be there, that something is angry, and there's nothing you can do about it. You can't protect yourself. You can't swing out and punch that thing in the face. The only thing you can do is try and get out of there as quickly as possible. And that's absolutely petrifying. And you know what? I'm kind of glad that you got that validation from your friend, that you were, having a jolly on the margaritas, and then all of a sudden you're talking about the Q station and they're like, oh yeah. Basically, the left aisle of the showers is terribly haunted with this angry man. So I'm kind of like, I'm glad that you got that validation, but also the validation is terrifying because you're like, oh no, that actually did really happen. I feel like the Q station is somewhere I need to visit. And it's definitely somewhere I need to do a full episode on. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. Thank you to Karlee for sending in your stories. Remember, Karlee's story came from the 23rd of September 2025. And if you would like to send in your story, you can do so by emailing it to reallifeghoststoriespodcast@gmail.com. You can also check out the website reallifeghoststoriespodcast.com. And if you are desperate for some extra content, you can subscribe to the Patreon. That is patreon.com/reallifeghoststories, where for $5 a month or for $2 a month, you can get access to heaps of extra content, as well as every single main and mini episode completely ad-free. And on that note, I shall see you next time.
Hey friends, it's Nikayla from the podcast Side Hustle Pro. I'm always looking for ways to entertain my kids without screens, and the Yoto Mini has been a total lifesaver. My kids started using it right away and haven't stopped since. Hours of stories, music, podcasts, and more at no screens or ads. Now through December 1st, Yoto is having its biggest sale of the year. Check out yotoplay.com.